should be live here. I am very, very excited for this one. Something that I have been looking forward to for a few weeks now. I'm here with Hiro, who is the personal coach to the one and only Kohei Uchimura. So how are you doing? And this morning for you and evening for me?
Yeah, I'm very good. Thank you. I'm super excited to be on your podcast. And thank you so much for having me.
Oh, the honor is all mine. Like I said, I'm very flattered that I could pick your brain and share some ideas with you. And obviously, I've as a gymnast looked up to Kohei for my entire life when I was training. So to hear that you say you first saw me through Nick Ruddock's physical preparation masterclass, that it was helpful is very, very flattering for me here. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, I have learned a lot from you. So I'm looking forward to learning from you today.
Oh, well, thank you. I think the honor is all mine, like I said, but I'm only a product of who I've learned from, and I can pass it along. The podcast is a great way to do that. So I'm happy to, but I think the really good place to start is to maybe educate everybody on how you got started in your coaching journey and how you kind of came to be coaching Kohei as, one of the greatest in our sport, if not of all time. I think that'd be a really cool story to hear.
Okay, no problem. So my name is Hiroaki Sato. You can just call me Hiro. I'm a personal coach of Kohei Uchimura. I was born in 1989, so I'm 30 years old. And so I think many people are curious to know how I became, Kohei's personal coach. Also, I'm a MAC national coach. So let me just briefly explain that. So I started gymnastics when I was 5 at one of Japan's most successful clubs in Tokyo. And I first met Kohei when I was 10 years old. So basically, Kohei came to Tokyo from Nagasaki Prefecture. And so we did a sort of training together. And then eventually, Kohei moved to Tokyo for full-time training, which also meant that we would graduate from the same high school. So we trained together for 3 years in Tokyo. And then when we did graduate, we went to different universities. So, Kohei performed remarkably as a gymnast, when he graduated from high school and then performing really well. But I didn't grow as a gymnast after graduating from university. So I decided to become a coach who could play an active role in the world. So what I decided to do was to go to Australia, to Brisbane, Australia, to study gymnastics coaching. But the biggest challenge that I faced in the beginning was, of course, language, because my English was quite limited back then. So I had to sort of immerse myself into the situation where I had to speak English every day and trying to study. And then once I have reached a certain level of English, I started coaching full time. I worked at the Gymnastics Queensland High Performance Center. And I was fortunate to be able to have met Sergei Chinka, who was the coach of the legendary gymnast Vitaly Sherbo. I have learned a lot from Sergei, and especially, of course, the techniques wise, but communication skills, stuff like that. So yeah, I can talk about it later. But yeah, so while I was having really good time in Australia, Kohei rang me completely out of the blue, and I want to become a professional gymnast, so I want you to become my coach. And I was like, are you sure? Like, seriously? And then I have considered for like 3 months, because I didn't want to make right decisions. So I wanted to make right decisions, so kind of think about it. Then yeah, I decided to come back to Japan to be his personal coach. So yeah, that's why I'm here today.
Wow. So what year was that when you decided to go back and you became his full-time coach?
The end of 2016. Yeah, after Rio Olympics.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, props to you for moving to Australia with such a language barrier and wanting to learn more. That's serious commitment to the craft.
Yeah, I have learned in Australia a lot from Australia, because I think it changed my life.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's such a cool story to hear. And so what has it been like, I guess? So did you have any coaching mentors besides the ones you mentioned, or, obviously any coaches that Kohei had before? How did you guys kind of transition that? And then what has it been like in the last few years going through worlds and things of that nature?
Yeah, so Kohei and myself have both mentor, we have good mentorship.
Mhm.
My mentor is Mr. Takashi Kobayashi. He's
Mhm.
a former FIG Academy expert and also former coach. And when we were high school, basically he taught us for about 3 years. And he was really, really smart guy. And sadly, he passed away last year due to stomach cancer. So I was very sad. But he taught me a lot of things. When we were high school, he incorporated biomechanics and sports science and put them into practice. And the training was really hard, like painstakingly hard, mostly physical preparation work.
Mhm.
It was boring, but we kept doing it, and then eventually we started to show good results. Like Kohei won at the high school championships, and also I was also selected to as a junior national team member. So
Mhm.
but that time we didn't realize how great Mr. Kobayashi's guidance was. But
Mm.
now I became a personal coach of Kohei, and now I kind of started to understand
Yep.
how profound the coaching is, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's definitely a hallmark of something I keep hearing from people on the podcast is how important mentorship is, to get the
Mm.
right, not only the ideas about training, but I'm sure he passed along a lot of like morals and values and principles of how you work with athletes. Can you share some of the most, I guess, meaningful values he passed you? I want to talk about the sports science stuff after, but I feel like
Yeah,
being able to have an athlete continuously do well over multiple years is very hard. You need a good culture. Can you share some about that?
yeah. I think the biggest thing that I can tell you now is Mr. Kobayashi gave a letter to Kohei when Kohei graduated from high school, and that letter shows that the qualities that you need to have to be an Olympic champion. So in the letter, there is a pyramid. And at the very bottom of the pyramid, it says humanity.
Mm.
Humanity, you need to have, feeling of gratitude, being humble, and also a quiet fighting spirit that you need to have in the big base. Then the next, you need to have, strong body,
Mm.
includes, flexibility, strength. And then the next, you need to have, you need to aim to achieve ultimate technique, then on top of the world. So these four qualities, I think Kohei clearly showed that he has every single one to be an absolute Olympic champion. So it's kind of super important to us.
Yeah, I love that the first thing you said was the humanity aspect. I think that all of us are involved in the sport because we had coaches who helped us become better people. And I think that
Yeah,
that's our number one role as coaches is to try to make sure that we're always developing the human and the person before we're only developing the gymnast. And I love that you
yeah,
said that.
yeah, it's true. So
That's great. And so I guess on the next piece of that is talking more about the actual training side, the technique side, once you have those layers of the pyramid. What you said, he
yeah.
mentioned a lot of science and using biomechanics. Are there things in particular that he taught you that you have found really, really helpful?
Yeah. Especially like periodization.
Mm.
So back then, when we were high school, we didn't know much about biomechanics or sports science or what the periodization is. But Mr. Kobayashi, introduced a very precise training program, like
Mm.
pre-competition phase, competition phase, transition phase, and stuff like that. We
Mm.
didn't realize back then, but now I kind of look back on, and there was very precise training program, which something that I can sort of implement my into my situation right now.
Mm.
So so I think definitely Mr. Kobayashi influenced me, gave a huge impact on my coaching life.
Mhm.
So now I have kind of established like three key things that I always cherish in terms of coaching. Like
Mhm.
the one is communication, The
Yes.
second is motivation. And then the third is inspiration.
Mm.
Yeah. So in communication, like I said, when I was in Australia, I have learned a lot from Sergey. And, I think, like I said, he taught me, how to communicate with the gymnast. So like in terms of communication skill, like the one occasion that sticks in my mind is one day I went to the gym and Sergey was giving the massage to his boys, and it was before training session began. So I kind of curious, why would you give massage before training? Because you know I used to have preconception that massage should be done after training.
Hmm.
So I asked him, why would you give massage? And then he said, the main purpose is communication. So he wanted to talk to his boys, before training so that he can understand their physical conditions or mental conditions, like just small talk, like, did you sleep well last night? How did the school go? Stuff like that. But it was super important to know that kind of state
Hmm.
before training.
Yep,
And
absolutely. I think touching base with people is super important every single day.
yeah, indeed. And definitely I use that technique in the daily training situation now. Like the first thing I do in the morning training session with Kohei is a partner stretch.
Mm.
So it naturally develops the conversations, like, yeah, did you sleep well last night and stuff like that. So, and then we can actually talk to each other. And then, because we usually train at the National Training Center
Mhm.
in Tokyo, we train 5 days a week. And it's such an amazing facility, like huge facility, but we usually train just 1-to-1, not many
Yep.
people there. So I want to create better environment. Like that's why I started doing that. Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of want to go back and touch upon you talked a little bit about periodization, and then you just had said that you trained 5 days
Mm.
per week. And that's a little bit curious for me, is obviously
Yeah,
Kohei is so advanced and he's had so many years in gymnastics, but
yeah.
you mentioned that you guys train really hard physically, which is super important to make sure people are
Mm.
are durable and are safe. But how do you guys factor in rest and recovery and balancing those two things? Is it, I think there's a misconception that in gymnastics across the world that the only way to get better is to do more and more and more. I think people sometimes undervalue rest. Can you share a little bit about what you guys go through and why that's so important?
Yeah, so Kohei is a hard worker, I would say. He wanted to train like every single day, but yeah, every single day, no rest, recovery days, stuff like that. But then I have quite tough experience related to this. Like it was back in 2018, uh, before World Championships, and we had a All Japan Senior Championships. It was just 1 month before the World Championships, and Kohei's preparation was really good, looking good, and then he hit every single piece of apparatus. And also, the head coach said that Kohei could be an all-around champion again because looking really good. But we kind of got mired in that situation where we kind of overlooked the importance of recovery.
Mhm.
So after the All Japan Senior Championships, we kept going on, and pushing hard, and hit every single routine, and then going really well. But just one day, when he was doing both, like handspring 2.5 twists, he came in short on landing, and then he hurt his ankle.
Mhm.
And now I look back on, we should have no, no, done differently. Like we should have had like recovery weeks, stuff like that. So
Mm.
I learned a lesson. Then we sort of had a meeting and then discussed, how can we, prevent such a thing from happening again? And then we decided to have like very precise periodization
Mm.
program. So basically we have like 3 weeks of intense training and then 1 week of recovery week. And then
Mm.
again, 3 weeks of intense training and 1 week recovery. And since we started doing it, I think trainings going really well, and I think it works out really well.
That's great. I follow a very similar approach to that kind of 3-on, 1-off model. I think for most people, it works pretty well. And I guess most people would understand in the training, 3 weeks is pretty hard and intense. But what are you guys doing during that 1 week off? Are you modifying the landings? Are you modifying the numbers? Are you doing less days in the gym? How does your deload look for that 1 week? Just because I'm curious now.
Yes. Yeah, like you said, modified numbers, and no, I'm not saying not doing anything, like just doing trampoline work or doing high bar a little bit, or because Kohei normally trains all 6 apparatus, but
Mhm.
in that recovery week period, we do just a couple of apparatus, or do
Gotcha.
something different. Yeah, he want to try some new skills because it's really good for him to be motivated, you know.
Yep. Yeah, that's very great. I think that's a good way for people to kind of think about that. Is that
Mhm.
as we have talked about before, and as you probably know, is obviously with your training, is that we don't get stronger when we're actually doing that hard work. We get stronger when we work hard, and then we have a rest night or day or week. That's how our body adapts. And I think that's one. It's important to keep making progress for performance, but two is that gymnastics is very, very hard. And like you said, demanding on
Mhm.
the body. And I'm sure Kohei is being 30 is obviously in the same boat as I'm 30 as well. And I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine training that hard for that long without taking some time off.
Yeah, exactly. It's super important to have recovery week. And now
Hmm.
he started to understand how important that is. So it's really
That's
good.
great.
Mm.
So, and going along with that, you said there were some other things related to periodization and recovery. How about more on the biomechanics or sports science side? Do you guys use a lot of data at all? Do you guys use a lot of research at all? Is there any science that you study that you try to implement in training?
Yeah, I try to study a lot from you, like biomechanics types, things, anatomy or physiology stuff. But I also, trying to watch the training and then coach him, and also keep a diary every single
Mm,
day.
that's
So
great.
yeah, so like you said in the previous podcast, you like keeping a diary, like journal.
Hmm. I do.
Hmm.
Yeah. The girls that we coach every day fill out their resting, how many hours of sleep they got. They fill out how sore they are on a 0 to 10 or 1 to 10 scale, how tired they are on a 0 to 10 scale, their resting heart
Yeah.
rate, and then they write overall mood.
Yeah. That kind of things. I'm not gonna go into too much detail, but yeah, I write down the training hours or number of skill he attempted or number of routines he did, and and then also mental state. I evaluate out of 10, and then
Mhm.
I kind of check that maybe today's 5 or 6, and also physical conditions. I evaluate out of 10, and then also the overall training productivity. So
Gotcha. And how do you use that information? Do you change practice based on the day, based on how you, like you said, there's the plan of periodization you have, but then if you talk with Kohei and he's either really, really feeling good or he's really, really sore, do you change
yeah,
that program based on that communication you have?
yeah, we regularly change the program based on my feedback, also based on his feedback, and also how he feels, and yeah, also the competitions, also the training camps, stuff like that. We can be flexible, but we need to
Yeah,
have this, the base of our training program, and yeah, periodization program.
sure. Having
Mm.
some sort of structure, but then being able to make sure you're listening and you're communicating back and forth because you can change some events around and things like that, right?
Yeah, always gonna have
That's
to
very good.
change and modify that. Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very important is the ability to, have a plan, but but be able to be flexible. Like you said, be able to be back and forth.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned one of your coaching philosophies that you have, other things such as like, there's motivation and inspiration are involved in too. I
Mm.
don't think motivation is really a problem for Kohei, but are there things that you guys try to do to keep each other inspired? And I'm sure you guys get very tired. It's very long days and you're just with him all day long and kind of things like that. Are there things that you guys do to kind of rev your energy back up and look forward towards bigger goals?
Yeah, so actually the motivation, sometimes we struggle
Mm,
because Kohei trains just basically by himself at the National Training Center. So yeah, he needs a teammate, to be honest. But
yep.
because he's a professional gymnast, so he has to train pretty much just by himself with me. And that time, when things are going well, motivation isn't a problem, but sometimes, after, sort of recovery from injury stuff, it's very difficult for him to keep motivated because rehab work sometimes really painstakingly hard, it's
Boring.
not fun, boring. Yes. So, and back in 2017, I guess, after the World Championships, he was recovering from ankle injury, and then we started doing rehab work. And at the National Training Center, just one-to-one, Kohei was doing rehab work, and I was kind of watching it. No conversation, silent. It was tough, to be honest. And it was tough. And then he didn't feel like training more, like didn't feel motivated, but I just kept doing it. So what I decided to do was to okay, let me train together, because I, instead of just watching it, why don't we run together, or why don't we train together? I can't do like super difficult skill in gymnastics, but I can be still physically fit enough to do some basics exercise and workouts together. So we decided to do that, and then that worked out really well. We started to have a conversation, like naturally have conversations. We can try 2 more times or 3 more and stuff like that. Like even just small things that really helped me. And then, we sometimes went for a run, and like 400 meters running, we, compete against each other, stuff like that. So it's really fun.
That's great. That's so awesome to hear. That's personally one of my biggest pieces of advice to coaches that ask me about questions or physical preparation, things like that. I think that that's how you build trust with your athletes, right?
Yeah.
Is either taking 1 day per week and doing the conditioning with the athletes that you work with, because it's very hard for them to buy in when you're maybe just shouting at them or telling them to do it, but you're sitting or you're not really doing it. But then also coaches need to be responsible for their own health. The more physically fit they are, the more they sleep enough and eat well and things like that. That also builds rapport with the athletes. They see that you're working hard, and they're more willing to kind of give you more support versus you kind of letting yourself not maybe be physically fit. That's one of my favorite things to do, is to jump in a workout with the athletes.
Glad to hear that. Thank you so much.
That's good. So I love hearing all these things. This is great. So when you guys are preparing for bigger competitions, you obviously have a plan of periodizing all the way up, but are there other things that you guys do on maybe like a mental strategy, like trying to make sure you're not getting too nervous or jittery? I'm not sure if he still gets nervous or jittery or things like that, but what do you guys do more on the mental side to complement the physical side?
So for Kohei, he doesn't feel pressure really leading up to the competition. He's very mentally very strong, but I need to be careful. I don't want to put too much pressure on him, like leading up to the comp. So one of my main role is to organize a training, also making a plan leading up to the comp. When we have control test, when we have like media day, stuff like that. So, and then we also, always talk to each other to make a precise plan. And because if Kohei trains like intensely for more than 2 or 3 weeks, like I said, I keep a journal, and his mental condition goes down. So it's like he's a bit cranky today and stuff like that. So I always make sure that he wants to be, a good condition mentally and physically, that can, reduce the possibility of overtraining, or, I want to detect signs of injuries and overtraining. So that's quite important. Yeah.
Does he have other hobbies or things he likes to do to take his mind off gymnastics, or is he pretty much always thinking about gymnastics?
Pretty much always thinking about gymnastics, I'd say. Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh man, that's what it takes to be the best,
Yeah, 24/7, I would say. Because pretty much we work together every single day, and even after training, we went back to home, and then but sometimes Kohei texts me saying, "How about doing these routines and new routines and routine constructions?" And we always talk about gymnastics.
Wow. That's awesome. That's incredible that he spends so much time on it. Well, but I mean, again, you have to always be thinking about planning and what can you do
Mm.
better and reflecting. And do you guys have a lot of conversations about that? About how did training go? How can we be better? What should we change? And things. It sounds like you do, but is that a pretty regular practice?
Yeah, in a day on a daily basis, we talk about that. But he doesn't want to be, told what to do. He doesn't want to
Mm.
be watched like all the time. So I always try to kind of control myself, if you know what I mean. So I just try not to talk too much about strategies or like scores or training program. I was trying to kind of infer from his attitude and then make a sensitive suggestion, I'd say. And then
That's
for that, yeah, it's kind of, I always use my, brain to do that.
sensitive suggestion. I think I might start using that. I like that.
Yeah, I kind of finding out the word. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how are things going now with the year that we're at now and leading up to Tokyo and things like that? What's the big plan or news you guys have kind of for the future?
So our next like official competition is gonna be in April, because Japanese domestic Olympic selection starts from April. We have All Japan Championships and also we have NHK Cup in May. So and then we finally decide the Japanese team members. So yeah, my first target is in April. So leading up to that, we have a couple of test events like a control test in February and March. So now we sort of started practicing the routine work. It's also the routine construction. We have to talk about it and some like skill work
Mhm.
and elements. So things are going well.
That's good. You guys must be he must be very excited. I mean, quite a long track record and career that he's had. It's pretty cool to see over the years.
Yeah, indeed.
And you must be excited too to be a part of it all, right?
Yeah, I'm very excited, but at the same time, kind of nervous as a coach.
Yeah. You do get
Yeah.
nervous, even though he doesn't feel as much nerves. You get nervous.
Yes, always. Yeah. How about
That's
you?
great.
When you coach gymnastics, do you get nervous in the competition?
Yes. When I was a younger coach, I definitely got nervous. So I had, especially when some of the younger girls that I was working with started being able to compete. I'm clearly not coaching anyone near the Olympic level like you are, but our girls
Mm.
competing on the national stage, if they got an opportunity to compete in our U.S. nationals and stuff, that made me very nervous. Not so much the actual national event, but the qualifying events leading up to it, because I knew that it was a really big goal of theirs. So we have something in the States called Easterns or nationals, which is the eastern half of the U.S. competes for level 9, and girls that
Yeah.
we had who qualified for those for the first time. It was a really big deal. And so I was in the bathroom, a little nervous, sweating a little bit and trying to talk myself down and try to stay calm, but I do get very
Right.
nervous. When we actually compete or train and practice, I don't get very nervous.
Right. Mm. Now I feel close to you.
Yeah. I think it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
because you know how much work they've put into it. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I think so. Yeah.
What kind of things are you learning right now? Are you still trying to figure out and kind of understand? Is there anything that is actively kind of on your list of things you want to know more about?
Yeah, definitely. I'm interested in learning more about strength conditioning
Mhm.
and how physiology works and stuff like that. So, is there any recommendation that I should read books and stuff?
Well, yeah, I think that this is definitely here in the United States. We have a lot of strength and conditioning textbooks that kind of cover the
Mm.
basic physiology of
Yeah.
sports in general. But there's a lot of really helpful. There's the Science of Gymnastics just came out
Hmm.
by Montmay Gemini, which was probably the biggest thing that's been helpful for me in terms of learning new ideas. But we
Right.
also, not that it would be super helpful in terms of strength and conditioning, but we just published a gymnastics medical textbook for myself and a bunch of other doctors and researchers did. And so that just has a
Mm.
lot of really updated ideas about the biomechanics of gymnastics, and it helps to kind of put the physiology into place.
Right. Wow.
I think that
That's
yeah, I think the biggest change in gymnastics will be using more body weight conditioning combined with weights. I do think that's going to be the next big change in the future of gymnastics.
right. Hmm.
I think
Yeah,
that
definitely. I think so. Yeah.
there's a fine line, you can't give up all your gymnastic stuff, but I think like we talked about periodization, especially in the off-season training, I think that younger gymnasts should be doing basic movement patterns with light weights to try to prepare their legs for such high
Mm.
forces that come down the road. I think if we want to see people make longer careers and not get hurt
Yeah.
early and be happier
Yeah.
with bigger skills, I think that's going to be a big change.
Yeah. It's going to be definitely helpful. Yeah. Because I listen to your podcast regularly, and you also mentioned that, improving aerobic capacity in the beginning of the year, before comp season, stuff like that. So I always listen to your podcast to learn something new.
I'm very flattered by that. I can't believe that you listen to that. I can't believe that a lot of people listen to it. I can't believe that it's become so big. I'm grateful every day to have guests like yourself on. But yes, I do think the episode with Chris Hinshaw, learning about how he works with CrossFit Games athletes and triathlon people who run quite a bit. I think there's a better way to train for a competition aerobic capacity. And I think we should do more between events, between floor and Pommel-Hurst particularly, because he was talking about how you can get so much fatigue in your legs from a lactate flooding that you can actually have tired arms because of that in Pommel-Horse. I think looking back on my career, there were a lot of times when I think I was not prepared for Pommel-Horse and my arms probably were really, really fatigued from going right from floor to Pommel-Horse. So I think things in between events could be better.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Especially Kohei also said that between, floor and pommel, always challenging because only have, within 10 minutes period, he has to prepare for the next event, and, it's very, very short time. So we wanted to sort of improve on that.
Absolutely. I think that the way to go about it, and the way that I've been learning more, is that doing more floor routines will definitely help you get through your routine better, but it still doesn't really help your body recover as fast. And so when you look at swimmers, for example, when they do a competition, after each big race, they go to a side pool and they do a warm down, right? And they kind of keep their body moving because it helps to flush out some of that byproduct. I think that we should maybe try to think about getting some bikes on the competition floor and using your arms to maybe pump out some of the lactate, or having a routine that you do between every single event that would help your body recover in 10 minutes. If you just sit, and this makes sense, as Chris said, your body is just not really able to clear out all that fatigue. What happens is you then go to Pommel-Horse and you get rushed to your warm up, and then you might still be really, really tired.
Yeah. That's great idea. Because what we decided to do is doing a 400-meter sprinting. And then after that, 5 to 10 minutes break. So it's going to be like simulate the apparatus, between floor and pommel. And then so we have 10 minutes break time and then move on to the pommel, which means that you do one more cycle of like 400 meters. Yeah.
I like that a lot. That's very creative as well. I think I would agree with that. I think that finding some ways to mix in upper body strength work before you do some of that would also be helpful as well. I think doing like a round of handstand push-ups and push-ups or pull-ups and things like that to fatigue your arms out, and involving that in the, I'm getting more and more on board with the running aspect of it, but then also using aerobic arm machines like ski erg, bikes, to see if that is something we could do.
Yeah. So if you don't have that kind of facility, we just can do like handstand dips or push-ups, stuff like that. You think?
I do. I think that you can, Chris was a big fan of doing very slow movements to try to clear some of the fatigue out of your arms and your legs, right? So the type 1 fibers can help extract some of the lactate and shuttle that to other parts of the body to be digested or used. And so if you do an interaction between hard and fast movements, maybe in your recovery, doing some very slow air push-ups on your back, or maybe doing some very slow movements with your arms, the thought is that the type 1 fibers could help clear out some of the fatigue that you have from doing floor or from Pommel-Horse or something like that.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for telling me.
No problem. Absolutely. I'm happy to share. Do you guys have any bikes? Do you guys have the bikes that have your arms that you can be used as well?
Yeah, at the National Training Center, we have like a training gym. So if we go there, we might be able to use it. We normally don't use it, but let me have a look.
Yeah. So that's the thought too, is that being able to have a bike that uses your legs and your arms at the same time, because the hard thing about gymnastics, as you know, is it's a whole body movement. So when you're squeezing super tight, doing a quad on floor or a double, it's not only your legs, it's your arms squeezing really, really tight too. So using the bike after a routine might accelerate some of that.
Right. Do you usually implement that kind of things into your, gymnast?
Yeah, I wish we had the budget to get a bunch of bikes that have the arms. They're called assault bikes here in the States. But what we do instead is we try to have the cardio workouts that we do, we try to really work on the whole body working hard together. So say, for example, we'll do a bunch of skills on uneven bars. Well, they'll cast handstands or they'll do some tap swings. So say we do 30 seconds of that. Then they'll go over to the vault runway, sprint 3 times. And then while they're resting in line, they'll do very slow arm movements and leg movements to try to see if we can make the arms work hard during bars and then go sprint a few times on the runway. And while their partner goes, they kind of do a recovery workout. That's how we're approaching it now.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. And that's kind of something new that I haven't really shared with people, is that I'm starting to do more and more bursted work on the actual apparatus. So trying to do more like cast handstands in a row, or having people do a bunch of circles on hoops. And then when they pop off, doing some leg movements really fast, and then trying to get a slow rest and go back on the equipment. I think it's more specific to the muscle group that gymnastics needs, versus like runners just do that. They'll run a certain amount and then they'll recover, jog, and then sprint, then jog. I think gymnastics can start doing that with events themselves.
Okay. Yeah. It's definitely helpful.
Yeah. What other kind of stuff do you guys do for strength and conditioning? Do you guys do strength and conditioning every day? Do you guys do it a few times per week? What would you do?
So we have strength conditioning on Monday morning and also Friday morning. So like I said, we have 5 days a week of training. So like Monday, we have 2 training sessions, Tuesday also 2 sessions. Wednesday is a medium day, and then Friday, Saturday is 2 sessions. So I'm trying to find out when we should put a lot of pressure, the training load. So Monday morning and then Friday morning we do basic physical preparation work. And then Tuesday and Saturday morning is a little bit lighter load. And then the afternoon training session should be focusing on the technical work. Yeah. Also Wednesday we have, like I said, the sprinting 400 meters outside of the gym stuff. So it's kind of work out really well.
Yeah, that's good. Do you guys do a lot of cross training outside of just gymnastics? Like I hear you saying you're doing some running and stuff. Do you guys do anything else besides only gymnastics specific strength training, or do you guys put most of that there?
So apart from gymnastics training, the only thing we do is sprinting and also, running, that kind of things. We don't really use the weight machine, stuff like that. Yeah, but in the physical preparation, we do a lot of basic moves like sit-ups, back extensions, and squat patterns, things. So it's quite important because now I understand the importance of it. So we started doing it pretty much every single training session.
Sure. And then how about anything with like preventative rehabilitation? Do you guys do anything for shoulder care or like his ankles, like you were saying? Are there things you guys regularly do? Do you work with any medical providers or things like that?
Yeah, so we have 2 physiotherapists, and then so we are working together, and then also we do injury prevention program pretty much every day before training, and especially in the morning session we do probably takes about 30 minutes or so, and then we do like a TheraBand work, like you posted on YouTube, and the similar stuff we do.
Oh, cool! Very cool. Now, I'm curious about that now. How much communication do you have with the physiotherapist in regards to their recommendations or talking with them about injuries and stuff? Are you in communication with them pretty regularly?
Yeah, pretty regularly. Pretty much not every day, but once in 2 days and stuff. So it's quite frequent. We can talk to each other and training program. Also, how he feels or he complains about the shoulder pain stuff. So I can quite regularly we can talk to each other.
That's great that you guys have that, team. It sounds like you have a team of people that you work with between Kohei and you and physios and things of that nature. That's great.
Yeah. How about you in your environment?
Yeah. So the way that we kind of work things, obviously it's a little bit unfair because I'm a physical therapist and I also coach. So I kind of do a lot of it, but I have my own clinical practice that's about 45 minutes away from the gym. So if people ever need something from me, they can come. But then I also have some friends of mine locally here that are very good physical therapists as well. And so if somebody needs something more local, I have them work with them. And then the biggest thing, like you said before, is communication, right? The parents in my situation, because my athletes are younger, the parents, the coaches, the physiotherapists, the doctors, they all have to talk to each other, or else what happens is it gets lost in translation. So we try our best to always be talking with all of our coaches about, who has what injury or who needs help. And we have specific programs that the kids do every day before practice to stay on top of things. Or if they can't do an event for a half hour,
Mhm.
they'll go do their physical therapy program or their physiotherapy program while the other event
Mhm.
is going on.
Okay, I see. It's very difficult to, make a suggestion. Maybe you should stop training because as a medical provider or as a coach, maybe I guess it's challenging for you.
It is very tough. Sometimes for me, it's a blessing and a curse. I always say is that it allows me to make informed suggestions about what events or what skills maybe we can change. But at the same time, I try my
Yeah.
best to separate. When I'm coaching, I'm a coach. When
Mm.
I'm a medical provider, I'm a medical provider. I try my best to just make, like you said, sensitive suggestions about the way. Uh, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of I probably treat 40 to 50 gymnasts per month at my clinic, and so
Mm.
most of the time, I'm just talking with coaches and parents and suggesting things and building programs. It's not like I'm there coaching. I can't have them change things.
Hmm. I see.
And it
Yeah,
gets tricky sometimes.
you go on.
I was going to say it gets tricky because everybody, as you may know, all the coaches have their own different approaches to training and parents have a way. And it's hard
Yeah.
sometimes to um, make suggestions that aren't going to make somebody upset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. It's sometimes very difficult to. Yeah.
Yeah. And are
Mm.
there other coaches that you regularly learn from that are around you that you work with, or is it really just you're doing your own continuing education?
Yeah, basically my own continuing education, but I also learned from FIG Academy because I was fortunate enough to become a figure academy expert since 2018. So
Mm.
I've been learning a lot from them, Figure 3 course of figure expert. And also I'm very lucky to have a very supportive people around me. So including the national head coach is very open-minded. We talk to each other and then discuss the idea, the training strategies. So I always talk to him, the national head coach, the
Yeah.
training's current status of training, and then he can make good suggestions. Maybe you can put this skill instead of doing this skill. Just, that kind of things that really helps me.
I really like hearing that, and I want to kind of hear you share more on that. How important is it for you that the head national team coaches or anybody else who you're coaching with the national squad, that they're open-minded and that they listen to each other and they want to learn from each other? Is that something that's been very important for you?
It's super important. Yeah, because especially the national head coach is he's very open-minded, and then so what we decided to do is to have a training camp in January, like it's a joint training camp, and then
Mm.
he asked me to introduce the training program like Kohei does, and also what I learned from FIG Academy, and then we did it together, and all national gymnasts, like
Wow.
national athletes, and also including juniors, and the strength training on rings or like physical preparation work, and then we did it together in January, and it was really good. Like I got really good like positive feedback from many coaches, and you know I'm still young. I'm only 30 years old, but I'm gonna have
Mm.
to sort of introduce a new strengths program or new techniques to older coaches. It can be,
Mm.
in the beginning I thought, I'm not sure if I can do it, but after that, everybody sort of was really happy about it, and I'm so happy to do that.
Yeah. How do you approach that? Because obviously you're 30 and some of the people that you're trying to introduce new ideas to are much older than you and they have a lot more years in the sport than you do.
Yeah.
How do you approach that without stepping on people's toes?
So in the beginning, I just asked questions like, how do you coach someone like a good gymnast? How do you produce good gymnasts and stuff like that? It's trying to approach them really sensitively, I would say. Like and then I I know a little bit of physio, like, how can I say it? Psychology, physiology, like nutrition and anatomy, stuff like that. But I'm not an expert. So I can coach, but I'm not that kind of aspect. I'm not really familiar with that. So I just need to ask the questions and seek professional help. And I think
Mm.
that really, really helpful.
Yeah, that's great. So I have a question then. So how much do you think that you have changed your coaching philosophy, say in the last 3 years since starting to work with Kohei? And how much do you think that overall everybody with the national team has changed. Has there been a lot of change, or are you guys doing some of the same stuff, but little things?
Yeah, gradually changing the culture, I guess,
Mm,
positively. Yeah,
good.
yeah. How about in the US? Is it like a national like program? What do you think?
Yeah, that we have our national team staff, and we have a decentralized system. So similar to kind of sounds like with you guys, where personal coaches will work with their athlete, and then they will go to training camps, and they'll share ideas and stuff. I personally am not involved with any of the
Mhm.
national team,
Yeah.
camps and things like that. I consult with a lot of gymnasts for help. A lot of coaches,
Mhm.
personal coaches will email me or will want to meet with me and ask my opinions and stuff. But I
Yeah.
try my best to just share as much information as I can, because the thing about my situation is that I work with a lot of other countries. I've worked with some
Mm.
other countries before, and so I want to make sure I can share with as many people as possible. So that's how it
Yeah.
is now. I'm lucky to be friends with a lot of the people who are involved, but I essentially just give them my ideas, share as much as I can. I put things online,
Yeah.
and then they take those
Mhm.
ideas, they ask me questions, and then we kind of just try to help each other out. Everybody tries to just learn from each other.
That's great. How did you study such a huge amount of information? And I'm just curious. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm a big nerd. I really like learning. I
Mhm.
enjoy. I have a natural strength of curiosity. I want to kind of learn things for myself, and I think that
Mhm.
when I was younger, I was similar to. It sounds like you is where you just knew that you needed to learn more, and so I was just trying to find out people that I wanted to learn from. And then for me personally,
Yeah.
it became a situation where I I like to spend my time on things that are really, really helpful and things that are meaningful, right? So I gave up a lot of free time when I was younger. When I was like 24 to 27, especially, I was
Mhm.
working 3 jobs. I was working 14 to 15-hour days every day between coaching and studying and treating. And so that's how I spent most of my time, was I enjoyed it. But a lot of it is just similar to how Kohei gets good at gymnastics. It's having a plan. It's setting aside time for
Mhm.
studying, keeping
Yeah.
the goals that matter to you in mind the most. So I would make the sacrifice of studying on Friday nights while, some of
Right.
my friends went out, which is fine. But over time, all that kind of adds up where I have more hours to kind of study things. You know what I mean?
Okay. That's fantastic. Do you regularly work out?
I do. I try to work out 5 to 6 days per week. I try to get at least an hour, hour and a half every single day to work out,
Uh-huh.
because I think that one is it helps my health. The healthier that I am, the
Yeah.
better my brain works. But then two
Mm.
is that there's a lot of really good research that exercise supports the ability of your brain to grow and learn
Yeah.
new
Brain
things. So I
stimulation.
continue to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
much as I
I do
can. Do
actually.
you work
Like,
out with Kohei?
yeah, 5 days a week and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes.
How much do you sleep?
Every time. Pardon?
How much do you sleep every night?
7 to 8 hours. Yeah, 7 hours a day.
Great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Uh, Yeah. Kohei sleeps like sometimes 10 hours a day,
I'm sure he's
especially,
training so hard.
yeah, after a heavy training session. Sometimes the next morning he said, "Oh, I think I slept for 12 hours."
Wow, my
Yeah, yeah,
lord.
yeah.
That's important for young gymnasts who are learning this, though, is that they need to sleep.
Mhm.
And then how is nutrition with yourself and with Kohei and stuff? Do you guys think about that stuff pretty regularly, about, trying to eat the
Yeah,
right things?
so yeah, basically we after training we have dinner at the National Training Center. So it's really good food, nutrition, good nutrition, and then so I can see what he eats pretty much
Mm,
every day. So then
mm.
I can talk to the nutritionist sometimes if I need it. So yeah.
Right,
Also,
just to make sure he has enough
after
energy.
also after training, like especially heavy training session, um, so Kohei normally has the physio session, like getting massage after training, and it takes about like 1.5 hours or 2 hours. So before that, I want to give him some sort of nutritional like food. It's not like a food, but something like a banana smoothie stuff, so that he can recover from the training. So yeah, I make that pretty much every single day.
That's pretty awesome. That's good that you do that. How much time do you spend? What's your daily life look like? What is your like morning? How much time
Yeah,
do you spend studying versus working out versus work? I'm just curious to learn, because you must keep a
yeah,
pretty rigorous schedule.
Yeah, so my daily life, typically like I wake up at about 7 a.m. and then study, read books for 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and then go to the gym from 9 to 11:30, which is the morning training sessions. And then after that, we have 1.5 hours sort of lunch time, I mean the break. Then from 1 to pretty much 5:30, we have afternoon training. And then it's too wrong. I think it's too wrong, but it's not always just training time. It's just like including
Mhm.
my working hours. So 1 to 5:30, and then Kohei has physio. So that time's like for about 2 hours, and then from 7 p.m. maybe from 7:30 we have dinner at the National Training Center, and then back to my home at about 9 p.m. That's my daily schedule.
That's great. I love it. It sounds very familiar to mine.
Hmm. How about you? What is your typical day like?
My busiest days are the days that I do kind of everything. So I usually wake up around 5 or 6, depending on how tired I am. I'll sleep in
Yeah.
if I'm really tired, but if most days I try to wake up around 5:30 is most. So I'll do
Yeah.
very similar to you. I'll spend
Yeah.
the first hour to an hour and a half, not no technology, just reading and
Hmm.
journaling and thinking about the day. And then I will usually work on stuff for the website for shift from
Yeah.
about 7:30 to 9:30, and then I will go
Uh-huh.
work out for an hour till 10:30. I'll probably
Yep.
see patients from 11 o'clock until 4
Mm.
o'clock on some days, or all the way till 7 o'clock on days that I don't have to go to practice. And then depending on
Mhm.
whether we have training or not, I will drive and I will coach from 5 to 8:30 or 9. And then I will go
Mhm.
home, eat real quick, and then I usually try to just hop in the shower. And some days I'll watch a
Mhm.
quick TV show to unrax or rewind, but most days I try to go to bed around 9:30 or 10, and then try to get 7 to 8
Right.
hours of sleep for the morning. But that's most of my days.
Okay. So you have Sundays off?
Yep. So we have practice on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning. And so I work
Mhm.
Friday pretty late, and then I have Saturday morning practice until 12. And then I have
Yeah.
pretty much most of Saturday to
Yeah.
relax. And I try to take Sundays almost all the way off from work, unless
Uh-huh.
I have a big project. But I try my best to hang out with my friends or get my mind off of
Right.
things.
Yeah. You also mentioned that in the previous podcast, you value your own time. I mean, your own personal development. You
Yep.
spend more time on studying, reading books. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's very important for me. I think it's
Mm.
I don't think that you can help other people until you really
Mm.
understand yourself. I think it's really
Mm.
important that you are happy with who you are and you have really good morals and values. And so I found when I was younger, I was spending a lot of time working. I was working, like I said, 80 to 90 hours per week, and I wouldn't
Mhm.
give myself enough time to think or to journal or to read or to be with my friends and stuff. And I got a little burnt out and I got a little
Yeah.
unhappy. And so
Mhm.
now I spend much less money on things,
Mhm.
and I just try to save my money and live in a small
Mhm.
apartment so that I can spend more time in the morning reading and trying to think about my
Yeah.
goals and what makes me happy
Yeah.
and things like that. I've been much better in the last 3 years.
Okay. That's cool. I want to do the same thing. I want to spend more time on self-development. In that case, I'm going to
Yeah.
have to wake up early.
You could probably find some other time though. I bet a half hour before bed, before you go to bed, you could probably read a book a week or so.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
We'll have to do a book exchange. We'll have to share some book ideas.
Yeah, yeah, that'll be a good idea. Yeah.
Could have a
I have
constant
many books that
library,
I
a
can
new library.
yeah, I have many books that I can recommend, but it's written in Japanese, so I'm gonna have
Mm.
to translate.
Yeah, or maybe I'll just have to learn Japanese.
That'll be good. Can you speak any different languages?
No, unfortunately not. I took Latin for 5 years when I was studying for high school because that helps with medical type things like
Mhm.
that. So I should have taken another language, but I didn't.
I see. Yeah. What do you think about my English? Still not, a lot of room for improvement, I guess.
I'm, I'm pretty impressed. I'm not gonna lie. It's very challenging to learn any language, but English is very, very hard. It's like doesn't really make sense sometimes, and I think that
Uh-huh.
I'm very impressed with how fluid you are.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that.
Have you
Yeah.
ever been to America?
Actually, not. Yeah, I've been to many different countries like Russia, Canada, Qatar, Australia, of course, but never been to America, so definitely I
You
should
should come.
visit someday. Yeah, I will.
You
So
should
you were
come
in
visit
Boston.
Boston and you can hang out with us.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Definitely, I'm gonna have to plan on that. Yeah.
I've never been
And
to, I've
also,
never been out your way before. I've never gone to any of the Asian countries at all.
oh, really? So you never been to Japan? So please come to Japan and let me know.
Yeah, I've been to Australia. That's the farthest I've gone.
Right. Which part of Australia? Did you go to Sydney or
Perth.
Perth? Oh, I've never been to Perth, but
It was very nice. Nick Ruddick introduced me to some people down there. I think you might know Pat.
yeah,
Pat Redfern. Yep. So
yeah.
introduced me to Pat and I got connected with some of the high performance coaching down there. So I went last year. It was very fun.
Right. So did you do some coach education event?
I did. Yeah. I worked, I flew over for 5 days. I think there was a 3-day high performance symposium that I taught at for a few days. And then I did some sightseeing and some traveling and then I came home.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I hope
It
you
was
had a good
good.
time. Yeah, that's good.
I had a
Yeah.
wonderful time. It was great.
Mm.
I ran out of questions to ask you. I think I'm trying to mull over. Are there any questions that you would like to ask me? I remember you said before we recorded that
Yeah.
there were some things that you wanted to ask me. Is there anything I can help you with? Because I want to pay you back
Yeah.
for giving me your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let me think about it. Just out of curiosity, how do you manage, your sports physical therapist, strength conditioning coach, and also gymnastics coach? Also, you run a company. How do you manage these kind of things simultaneously? Like,
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that I'm very lucky to have some people around me that believe in what I'm doing and they value my work. And so I can be flexible with my hours in terms of working. So my bosses both understand that and they give me some time to kind of play with, which is helpful. But I think that there's a lot of things. It looks like I'm doing a lot of things, but there's a lot of things that I don't do that I think a lot of people spend a lot of time doing. So I don't spend a lot of time watching TV. I have a few shows that I enjoy watching and things like that. But for the most part, I don't watch a lot of sports. I don't watch a ton of sports regularly. And I also don't spend a lot of time on social media. I have my businesses that I put content out with, but I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook or Instagram for my own personal account. I'll probably check it maybe 15 minutes every few days here and there. But for the most part, those things aren't really part of my goals in terms of what I want to do and try to help people. So I get some time back there. And I also think that I'm just very structured with how I spend my days. I kind of have a routine every day that I do the same things. And so I try my best to stick to that. If I don't have my routine or if I just kind of let things flow too much, I tend to have a to-do list that builds up too high. And then the other piece of it too is that I have invested a lot of my time in using technology to help me run the business. So I have a lot of things online that, companies that I hire to help me with some things online, or I work with Becky, who's produces the podcast now, and she helps me out. I was doing that myself for a long time, but once I hired her, that gave me back 5 hours, 10 hours per week where I could, work on other things or other things. So yeah, I guess that's mostly how I do it. And then I just enjoy reading and learning. So that's kind of a hobby for me, like reading and doing this company stuff is a hobby. It's not a chore for me.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's really good.
I also currently don't have any kids or a wife. So other people that I work with have family and they have to spend time with their kids. And that hasn't happened for me just yet. So that's all right. But that allows me a lot more time as well.
Yeah. You can spend more time on yourself.
I think that's the best way to do it, right? Spend all this time on myself to develop, and then it makes the business run better. And then I think now I'm doing it more, but I think the first 7 years I worked very, very hard on the company and things like that. Now I can afford a little bit more time to relax after the 7 years of work has been built up.
Yeah. That's cool.
I enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. Enjoying your work is the most important thing, I guess.
It's so important to do what you love. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. The
All right. Well,
the other question that I want to ask, just one more question. When you coach, gymnastics, do you use like visual cues or do you use like terminology or how do you coach gymnasts?
Yeah. So I'm very big on trying to I try to have really good communication with my athletes. Like you said, I think it's very important
Mm,
to take time to break down technique and make them really understand the pieces of each step.
mm,
That's what Nick has taught me. We use a lot of
yeah.
video feedback. So we'll
Mm,
record it and we'll very slow motion go through it and look at the different body positions and things of that nature.
yeah.
So I think that communicating about, not only about, what do they feel, but what do they
Mm,
see is very, very important too. So, do you see the floor? Do you see
mm,
somewhere where you spot? So we try our best to use a combination of what they're seeing and then also what it looks like when we watch them. And then we try our
right.
best to make sure that we're doing it based on what the learning style of the kid is. So there's some people that like
Mhm,
to watch other people. So we try to have them
yeah.
watch their teammates and see what corrections they get. We have other
Yeah.
people who are much more factually oriented, where they want to understand the science of it a little bit more. They want to understand physics. They want to understand
Yeah.
biomechanics. They want to know
Yeah.
how the bar bounces. So we try to tailor our coaching style
Yeah.
based on what they need.
Right. Do your gymnasts talk to each other in terms of, the techniques or like teaching each other, I would say?
Definitely. They watch each other a lot. That's a big thing. I think
Yeah.
that our gym is very supportive of trying to take your turn and then do maybe a drill for your correction, but then while you're
Yeah.
chalking up or while you're waiting, to watch other
Mm,
people and see if they're doing well or not doing well. And I think they share a lot of ideas, especially athletes who have done a skill that somebody else is trying to learn. We're very
yeah.
big on, I mean, it's different because I work in a team of younger athletes. We're very big on culture and trying to make sure that everybody is being helpful to each other and is supporting each other, and
Mm,
they're trying their best to motivate each other versus the coaches always being the people that are causing that.
yeah. 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 That's
Which
great
must be
atmosphere
hard
in
for
your
you. Go
gym.
ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Very hard. Yeah. It's very good atmosphere in your gym. I can
We
tell.
try. We're not perfect
Yeah.
at all. We're not perfect. I'm not perfect. The coaches are still learning. The kids have their
Yeah.
days. I have my days, but we try.
Mm. In Japan, we have national training camp. Like I said, the gymnasts always talk to each other. And then, how did you feel? And also, what did you see when you do this, certain skill? I always try to sort of observe the conversation. Then I
Yeah.
can pick up some good information from them. So like they use a lot of imitation sound of the skill, if you know what I mean, like the
Yep.
rhythm or feelings, and yeah, they always exchange that kind of techniques and information to each other. It's it's kind of interesting to me.
That's interesting. I've never really thought about the sounds and the rhythm of certain skills. I'll have to think more about that.
Yeah, because always the national gymnasts always talk about it, and
Hmm.
even when we talk about the same skill, the one gymnast feels completely different from the other gymnast does. So it's kind of interesting to see how how they feel, and then actually the biomechanics or science tells us, you know,
Hmm.
and then in the future, I want to be able to sort of tell the feelings of the skills as well as, explaining the mechanics, backed by science.
Hmm.
Yeah, I want to be able to do that both. Yeah.
Yeah, that's challenging.
Mm.
That's very hard to understand it from both points of view.
Mm. But also Kohei is really good at explaining the feelings of the skill. Like the one occasion that I witnessed was it was a couple of years ago. Was a joint training camp with junior and senior national team members. It's a national training camp, and then one of the junior athletes uh, trying to do stoop half on high bar, and he was having trouble, making handstand straight. I mean, his handstand position was a bit cricket, and
Hmm.
he was having trouble doing that. And then when Kohei saw it, Kohei gave good advice to him. And what he said was, all right, imagine when you enter, and then when your body gets upside down, put your pants on and look at your wristwatch. And
That's
the
awesome.
next time, yeah, that gymnast made it perfectly. So it worked.
Huh. I really like that analogy. I think that definitely makes sense for a younger athlete as well, making those
Yeah.
comparisons to things that they know how to do.
Yeah. I think as a coach, instead of explaining, all right, enter 45 degrees angle and then wait that much. And then when you see the ceilings and then, let go, stuff like that. I think, it's better to explain that way, like Kohei said.
Absolutely. I agree. Does Kohei do a lot of time giving back to the juniors? Does he spend time with like trying to pass on his information, or is he really just focused on training?
Yeah, he used to focus on his own training, but probably from last year to a couple of years ago, he started to sort of share his knowledge to other athletes, like especially the junior athletes when we have a training camp. Yeah.
Do you think that he's going to coach after he continues or starts the coaching at all?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure
Leave that
yet.
to you.
I'm not sure what's going to happen after 2020 Tokyo's, but yeah, see what happens. Yeah.
Take it one step at a time, right? Don't need to rush.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I want to continue to study every day.
I agree. I think I'm going to be learning till the day that I die.
That's good. So what is your next goal beyond 2020, like after Olympics?
Yeah, I think that I have a few projects that I'm working on right now that are very important. So one is I'm working on a research project to measure training load in gymnastics more specifically. So we're trying to design a way to get a better measurement of how hard gymnastics days are that's specific to gymnastics. So that's what I'm currently working on. I'm trying to build some research studies that would go through Tokyo and after. I think the other thing I'm very interested in is studying stress endocrinology. So studying how stress, good or bad, makes an impact on us and our health and our mental health and our ability to train well. So I think with a lot of the kids in gymnastics, the younger kids, they unfortunately maybe get pushed a little bit too hard too soon, and it's too much for them. So I'm trying to study those kind of things. And I also want to understand that for myself, just to be, live better and live well. So that might be something that I do. I might go back to school and get another PhD in neuroscience, and possibly. But then the other thing I might do, I've been thinking about this more and more, is taking a extended time away and traveling and doing more clinics and camps and teaching and things of that nature.
That's cool. One day I want to do the clinics with you.
I would be more than happy to do that. We could do one together. We could teach a camp together.
Yeah, that would be great. Let me know when you have time, and then we can schedule it.
Perfect. It works for me. Well, Hiro, I think I'm all out of questions. I think for now I could sit here and talk for you another hour, but I know you have a busy day ahead of you. So I just want to say thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for everything else that you're doing. I'm excited to watch you and Kohei through the Tokyo Olympics, and we'll be sure to share some more ideas as we go on.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time with you.
My pleasure. You're welcome on the podcast anytime.
Thank you.
All right. We will talk to you soon, okay?
Yeah, definitely. All right. Thank you so much, and talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.